You're now listening to episode 124 from the Shed End with myself, Theo, and the other Theo. How you doing?
I'm good. Came back from Portugal on Monday, and it seems like I brought a bit of sunshine with me to the UK, as it's a really warm Friday today, and no better day to record a podcast and talk about Chelsea for once in a relatively good mood after the last couple of results we've had and the remaining fixtures we've got this season, and also we just spoke about our injury list has just been shortened as well. So yeah, in a positive and happy mood this Friday in the sunshine. How are you doing?
No, I'm good. Like you, ready. Apart from the hay fever, we didn't speak about that before we hit record, but yeah, the hay fever's caught me out a few times this week, but can't complain. We got some sunshine and the weather's decent. It's almost beer garden weather. So barbecue weather, as you called it before. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend as well. Before we get into the episode, as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you go to our Linktree link in the description and make sure you hit that, and it will take you to all the social accounts. So go straight there, follow those as well. Like this video, leave your comments underneath the video as well. Let us know your thoughts. But let's start with obviously the latest news around awards. It seems like it's a time for us to talk about awards this year. Cole Palmer has just officially, before we recorded, been given April's Player of the Month award. Something that you just, again, before even we recorded, Eden Hazard, the last player to receive it for Chelsea, which nearly made me fall off my seat, but well deserved for Cole Palmer.
100%, yeah. Like you mentioned, first Chelsea player to win it since Eden Hazard in September 2018. So it feels long overdue. But that being said, in between these two time periods, is there really a standout Chelsea player that's really impressed people in a given calendar month? Probably not, other than maybe a Mason Mount in 2021 or something like that. So it's not really that big of a surprise. But yeah, I think the only surprise is that Cole Palmer hadn't won it previously this season for his performances and his contributions to matches, particularly maybe around November or October time. But yeah, April thoroughly deserved. I think, was it April we played both United and Everton, where he scored 7 goals in those 2 games, I think.
Yeah, it would have been either April, maybe a crossover from back in the March, April, but I think it was April.
Yeah, I think they were both April, because I think our last game of March was Burnley, and then it was United. So yeah, 7 goals during that period. I think an assist against Sheffield as well. So yeah, really impressive April period, and we're going to touch upon them a bit more in our own awards shortly. But not only did he win April Player of the Month, but he also won Chelsea's Player of the Month and Chelsea's Players Player of the Month.
Yeah.
So it just seems like the awards keep coming for him, and I think he's been nominated for Young Player of the Season and Premier League Player of the Season as well. So he might have to get a bigger trophy cabinet soon for all of his individual awards, because it feels like it's just the beginning for him.
Yeah, I think I've just been doing another podcast this morning as well, and I feel with Cole Palmer, it's unfortunate that he's played in a team that's probably underperformed this season, because I think he would definitely be, for me, above Ollie Watkins in terms of the player of the season, the Premier League player of the season, and Alexander Isak. I think I put him above those players. Obviously, you can't rule out Erling Haaland or Phil Foden, Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice as well, but I just think, and obviously Virgil van Dijk's been nominated, but I just think, had he been playing in a team that was, pushing maybe for the league, pushing into those Champions League spots, I think there'd be a bit more oomph from maybe the fans, maybe, the players who vote as well, to push him further up the rankings. But I just feel, because he's in a team that's really underperformed throughout spells this season, it is hard to overlook Ollie Watkins, who, Villa look like they're going to get Champions League football this season. Again, Martin Odegaard, potentially Premier League winner. Isak, again, another one who's done really well for Newcastle. But no, Cole Palmer deserves it for me. I think he's one of those players that we would have been lost without him. We probably would have been talking more so bottom half of the table, staring down the relegation street, as opposed to now potentially a European spot at the end of the season. So he's definitely someone that's turned our season around and deserves a lot more credit probably than he's been given. And we've got to talk about the price tag. Massive bargain for what City sold him to us for.
Completely, yeah. I just echo everything you said, and let's not forget as well, I feel like he was kind of a second choice when we initially wanted Michael Olise.
Yeah.
So it feels like Crystal Palace playing it hard for us to get him, kind of led us to get Cole Palmer and on deadline day, and it kind of came out of the blue. But yeah, what signing he's been. And I just feel like he's so kind of composed and calm for his age. You don't really see many kind of stories of him off the pitch, and he just seems like just wanting to play his football. When he gets a penalty, especially, the penalty to equalise against United, the penalty to equalise against Man City, he seems like the calmest person in the whole of Stamford Bridge. Even the fans and the players around him seem more nervous than him. So he's definitely got that ice cold composure. And what's exciting, it just feels like it's just the beginning, given his age and his recent call-ups to the England squad. So it's a very bright future for Cole Palmer.
Yeah, definitely. How realistically do you think he's got in terms of those players? I mean, Phil Foden, Haaland, Alexander Isak, Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, Ollie Watkins, Virgil van Dijk. How, if he was to put some sort of money on it, or I don't know, if he was a betting man, how confident would you be to back him to potentially win amongst that group of players?
I mean, unfortunately, I don't think he'll win it. Personally, I feel like he definitely deserves to be up there amongst those nominees, simply because if it wasn't for his performances and his individual contributions to Chelsea games, his goals, his assists, I think Chelsea wouldn't even be fighting for a Europa League spot right now. We'd probably be in the bottom half of the table. That being said, I'm kind of given how these awards have been handed out to players in the past, I think it will be a player from the two teams competing at the top, being City or Arsenal. So I think it'll be between Rodri, Foden, and Odegaard, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's one. I agree with that. I think he's as I said, I think if he was in a team that was probably pushing for the league, pushing for the Champions League spots, I think we'd be talking about Cole Palmer in a different light. And I think a lot of what he's done has probably gone not unnoticed from Chelsea fans, but I think from other fan bases, maybe more so because of the fact of where Chelsea were for a lot of the season, mid-table. Recent times, recent form has pushed us up the table into those Europeans, or hopefully into those European spots. But yeah, one for me, bargain, one I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing. I know Todd Bowley wants to try and utilise him as part of the brand after his latest comments in The Athletic. He wants to try and use Cole Palmer as the brand for Chelsea, which, it's a topic for another day, I think. But before we move on to our sort of our own personal sort of shout-outs and highlights of Chelsea's season, Thiago Silva officially, I don't think, have we recorded since the news has come out? I don't think we did, have we? So if you've been under a rock, you're a Chelsea fan, which you might have done for parts of this season. Thiago Silva officially announces that he's leaving Chelsea, returning back to Brazil. Fluminense is the team he'll be going back to. It's all been official. It's announced. I think the videos, social media videos are now out, which looks odd, him not being in the Chelsea kit. I know he's only with us for a couple of seasons, but what's your thoughts, Theo? Someone I know you're very much an avid fan of, and I know, just like me, don't really want to see leave the club in any capacity, whether that's coaching in the future. You hopefully will see him return back here.
Yeah, it's really emotional. I mean, I can't remember a single player that's only stayed 4 seasons, but it's become such a fan's favourite amongst the players. And it's probably even, I'm going to say, become a Chelsea legend, perhaps, despite having only played 4 seasons of football at the club. His passion for the team, the city, what Chelsea means to the fans is second to none, really. And there's not many players that I can say the same about. And even his farewell message, when he said he'll be back, you could tell that he meant it. A lot of players usually say that, but will it be back? No. But in his situation, he's going to Fluminense, the club. He departed Brazil for Porto initially, before going to Moscow, then Milan, PSG, then Chelsea. He's going back there, but his kids are staying in a Chelsea academy. So that really makes me think that he will be back at some point, back living in London, back with his family. And who knows, maybe we've got another Silva in the Chelsea ranks. That will be the next big thing. I think it's Thiago, is it Thiago? I think that's his name, the son. But yeah, I just know for a fact he'll still be rooting for Chelsea from South America. And if Bell Silva also stays in London or goes to Brazil, it's still to be seen as well. But what a player he's been. And I feel like the timing of it is probably fair, but also the timing in the season I think is right, because that gives us a couple more games now to really give him the farewell he deserves, especially in Bournemouth, his last game at Stamford Bridge. I feel there's talks of the Shed having a banner for him and a really kind of some kind of farewell or tribute to him. I'm glad as well that he's recovered from that injury. I saw him. He came off, I think it was against Villa, wasn't it? But back in the lineup against against West Ham. So yeah, what a player. I mean, I feel we could just have a whole podcast episode purely for Thiago Silva. Yeah, just talk about some highlights, some memories. Because I've got a lot of them in mind, not just performances, but moments that happened with him off the pitch as well. So yeah, what a player.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's one of those players that, we'll speak about for many, many years, very similar to how we talk about John Terry and even the Gary Cahills, Ricardo Carvalho's as well. And it's interesting because Chelsea, I think, are allowing him to leave straight after the final game of the season. 19th of May, is allowed to join up with Fluminense, which shows the respect that the club have for Silva, and Silva has for the club as well. I think he's a true sort of veteran of the sport in many aspects.
Completely. And it feels like, from what I read, the negotiations were very amicable and kind of went down really well, because it seems like the Fluminense president's now become a Chelsea fan after the negotiations, and he's wanting to organise a friendly match between Chelsea and Fluminense at the Maracana in Rio de Janeiro, which would be an amazing away day for Chelsea fans, I'm sure.
Don't think I'll get a ticket for that one, but if I did, it'd be some game to get to. But we'll definitely do a lot more, I think, on Thiago Silva throughout the summer, and talk about him in a bit more depth. Just felt we couldn't really do this episode and not touch on what seems to be a legend of the club, like you said, in the space of 4 years. But let's go on to our categories that we've picked out. I think we did this last year, and it was quite depressing. If you remember, we didn't really have much to go off, and this season seems to be a little bit better for us in terms of some of the players individually, how they've performed, some of the performances, and some of those games where we potentially, going into them, we were quite negative, but we actually got the result in the end. So, got a couple of categories, so I'm just going to reel those off now, just so anyone who's listening knows what to expect, and maybe do your own as you go along as well. So we've got player of the season, we've got flop of the season. That could be a player or maybe a moment in a game, but I've gone for a particular player. Goal of the season, the unsung hero, signing of the season, most improved player, young player of the season, the best moment in a game, I think we've got there as well. And I think that's it. I think, is that the criteria we've got?
Yeah, I think we added one last one, match of the season as well.
Match of the season as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got. Yeah. So those are the categories. Let's just start at the very top, as we've just been speaking about player of the season for Cole Palmer, who's been nominated there. Let's do our own individual one. I'll let you go first. I'm pretty sure we've probably got the same.
I'm going to have to agree with what the players and the fans voted at the Chelsea Awards. For me, it's got to be Cole Palmer. Like I mentioned, I think it's 21 Premier League goals. So he's second just behind Erling Haaland. I think it's 24 in all competitions for Cole Palmer. And just what a player. Like I mentioned, his composure, he's really hit the ground running in what's been his first season at Chelsea. And he hadn't played that much football previously at Man City. He was more a sporadic kind of player that would come off the bench in the League Cup games. So he's really come here and become the main man at Chelsea. Really, really impressive. And like I mentioned, I just find it crazy that he wasn't really our first choice in the summer. We were really going after Michael Elise. So yeah, for me, it's got to be Cole Palmer. And we'd be in a much worse situation if it wasn't for him this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I've gone for Cole Palmer as well. And I think it's one of those things that at the time it felt like a bit of a gamble. You just said then around, Cole Palmer didn't really play as much Premier League football for Man City. Obviously, Michael Elise had been for Palace, and I think that's probably why we were trying to go for Elise as opposed to Cole Palmer. And I think we've got the better end of the bargain when you look back on this season, especially how Cole Palmer's trajectory's gone. His value's gone probably through the roof, and his performances have definitely enhanced him as a player. I just think City probably didn't see the true potential in him. Maybe, I don't know. They don't tend to normally get rid of players that they see the value and the potential in, that might be able to fit and integrate into their squad. So to let him go, you almost think there's a reason why they're letting players go. You look at Raheem Sterling now as well, but he's been even without those goals and the assist, he's still one of those players that when he's got the ball, you expect something to happen with him. And bar the West Ham game where he had a couple of moments where he should have probably scored, but he's one of those players that we were almost building the team around him a little bit, or he's part of that spine that we spoke about here before. So for me, instrumental in the game, and just someone that we'd be lost without, wouldn't we? Really, let's be honest.
Yeah, I just hope we just don't become too reliant on him in games, because you look at that game against Arsenal at the Emirates, where I think he was out with a really bad cold.
Yeah.
No pun intended by saying cold there.
There were, I only.
Yeah, you look at that game and we just got absolutely dismantled, and we just looked completely lost in all kind of departments of the pitch and our lineup. So I really hope in the summer somehow the other kind of forwards and more offensive players step up as well. So we're not too reliant on him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one. I think it's a good shout. Obviously, Nkunku's got to step up. We've got a couple of other players there. You know, Madueke showing signs, Mudryk as well, showing signs of promise. Well, Madueke, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Talking about Mudryk, should we talk about our flop of the season next?
Yeah, let's go. I can guess who yours is already, but let's go with flop of the season next. Who have you gone for?
Yeah, I've gone with Mikhailo Mudryk. I kind of wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt last season, having signed him in January, and he was coming to a completely new league from the Ukrainian one. Still very young as well. But this season for me, it was just his moment to really shine. He took the number 10 kit number as well, which is a big number to play in, particularly when you look at historically the players that have represented it, the likes of Eden Hazard, Joe Cole. But he just really hasn't performed, in my opinion. We had glimpses and moments where you feel like he's scored a couple in a row now. But given all the injuries we've had in the last 2 months, the Palmer to Nkunku, those players, at times we've been forced to play him.
Yeah.
And he just hasn't stepped up. I mentioned that game against Aston Villa where in the second half where every single player played their part, except for Mudryk. There were moments where he was losing the ball, giving it away too easily. He just wasn't picking his right pass. I just feel like his decision making is really poor as well. And I just feel like he just hasn't really matured in the way I wanted him this season, or blossomed in the way I wanted him. And I've been really, really critical of him at times. There's moments where I've praised him, particularly after the games. I think it was against Leeds and against Newcastle. I think we scored back to back. But he just hasn't done enough for me. And I just feel like he hasn't really won the fans over, particularly those match-going fans. I know it's a lot of people that rate Mudryk or kind of, I want to say this, but kids who are like 12 and just watch football because he's good on FIFA, something like that. But he just hasn't performed. And for me, it has to go down as a flop now. Last season, 6 months, okay, benefit of the doubt. A year and a half now, he hasn't done much. He's a flop.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think he's definitely spending a lot more time in the gym and on streams, playing FIFA on Twitch than he probably does actually practicing football himself. So I think he's definitely up there for me. Worrying because of the price we've paid for him, and we haven't really seen the progress in Mudryk that we thought we would have probably seen this season off the back of the 6 months when we got him. But I've actually gone for someone different. I've gone for Axel Disasi for me, who I look at his performances this season, and I mean, I think I've called him disaster most of the season, and Badia Shit is the name I think he dubbed for Badia Shil, who could also have been in that conversation for me as well. I just think defensively, one area for me next season I'll worry about with Thiago Silva departing is our defensive line and how young, inexperienced it is. I'm not as fussed going forward because obviously we've got Cole Palmer we've just spoken about, and Nkunku. Nicholas Jackson has done okay this season, I think, in terms of his numbers and some of the performances, especially after the AFCON. But I think about our back line and I think about Disasi and just not looking comfortable. Even with Thiago Silva next to him, he still didn't look very comfortable. And I just think for a player that we've signed for, I think, 38 something million, yes, he's quite young, but I look at him and I think we could have probably spent that money elsewhere on a better central defender who's a bit more experienced in the back line. And you've just got to step up, and he hasn't done that. I think he scored maybe 2 goals, maybe 3. I think he scored an own goal this season as well, but 2 or 3 goals. I don't expect goals from him, but even his defensive duties, he's got a bit of flop of the season for me, unfortunately.
It's a good shout. I do feel at times he was played out of position at right back, to be fair. But
got to be versatile.
But yeah,
so I think
you got to. I feel like the modern day centre back needs to be able to adapt at right back. You look at Chalobah, who seems to have played better when he's been shifted on the right hand side. But it's a good shout. I just feel like maybe we need to learn now to stop buying centre backs from Monaco.
Yeah, we've had our fingers burnt a few times there, haven't we already? Let's move over to goal of the season. This is where I struggled a little bit. I not because we've had loads of amazing goals, but I just couldn't pick out of the three that I've written down which one I thought deserved this. But I'm going to let you, I keep it in the true tradition, let you go first.
Cheers. I actually struggled with this one too. I was trying to visualize all the goals. I even went over all our fixtures we played this season.
Yeah.
To try to remember some of those goals we scored. There's two that came to mind. I feel like I'm maybe missing one or two, but the first one was Palmer's first goal against Everton at Stamford Bridge in a 6-0 win. I think where he puts it through, I think it's Branthwaite's legs.
Yeah.
And then somehow he manages to just guide it past Pickford, almost curls it in, which I thought was a fantastic goal very early on in the game as well, to kind of calm the nerves and kind of set the tone for the rest of the match. But the one I've gone with was the Enzo Fernandez free kick at Villa Park. Sublime free kick in that 3-1 victory in the FA Cup, the replay from the 0-0, I think around February time. And he just really just smashed it in. We don't really score many free kicks, so it was really nice to see him score that one. And I think that was also the goal that made us go 3-0 up and kind of have a comfortable second half afterwards. And the technique was brilliant as well. And then I think he takes his shirt off and just lifts it up to the fans. The celebration was also on par with that. And I feel as well, if he's doing that and whacking the ball with that pace and power with a hernia, then what can he do with when he's kind of healed from his surgery? So, it was a fantastic goal. And even the still images of it are absolutely fantastic when the ball's in midair.
Yeah.
And to be a keeper like Martinez as well, it's got to be a really good free kick. So for me, that's my goal of the season.
Yeah, they could be teammates. If news in the media at the moment is correct, we could see Martinez actually coming to Chelsea. But I've gone for I did struggle. I'm still struggling. While you were talking, I was still trying to put these in an order. I don't want to give this goal of the season, but I feel like it deserves to be goal of the season, even though it was a fluke of a goal. So I'm going to do my honourable shout-outs first. I'm going to go for...
I know which one you're going to say now.
I'm going to go for... This is my honourable shout-out. So I've gone for Carney Chukwuemeka, who scored a really good goal against West Ham.
Yeah.
He sort of dropped the shoulder, came in on the right foot and just almost used the defender to put it into the bottom left corner of the goal, which I thought was a really good goal at the time. I think it's the only time we got to really see our third kit as well, which was a shame this season. I think we played in our third kit that season, that game, sorry. My second honourable shout out is Madueke against Leicester 4-2.
Yeah.
Really good goal. Again, liked that game there. I think he came on, I think as a sub in that game actually, and he just almost took on a couple of defenders and then he almost scooped it with his foot into the corner of the goal. It wasn't really like a powerful shot. It was more the precision of the ball going into the box. So I thought that was a really good goal. But unfortunately, I have to give goal of the season to Mudryk, who I know you're not going to be happy about. I know it looked like a bit of a cross. I know the goalkeeper was off his line, but I think still I have to give it. That was probably the best goal that we've seen this season. I love Enzo Fernandez free kick. It was up there for me, but I think Mudryk probably has to take that for me. It was just the angle, the shot, where he was, whether it was a cross. It was a goal in the end, but whether it was a cross or not is, few and far between.
Yeah, no, it was a good goal. It was a really good goal, and it's got to have some kind of swerving technique to it to beat the keeper from that angle.
Yeah.
But if you want to give it to Mudryk for this season, I hope you would have given it to Zappa Costa against Karabag in 2017, because he scored an almost identical one.
Of course. I think that's where Mudryk got it from, I think. Maybe he watched the game with Karabag and tried to do the same. But yeah, good goal. But I think Enzo Fernandez, if we were going to be honest, over those two was definitely... it's harder for me, I think, to score from a free kick, especially against a quality of keeper of Martinez as well.
Yeah, to feel like Gallagher against Villa last week was a good one as well.
It was
a really good one.
Bit of a half volley, I think, was it? It was a bit of a half volley into... Was that the one? Was that Villa?
The one where I think we curls it in.
No, I'm on about West Ham.
Yeah.
I'm on about West Ham, I think.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good goal too, actually. Really good goal against West Ham.
Yeah. Just saw the claret and blue. Unsung hero, let's go. This is, again, I found this one quite tough, but I feel like I whittled it down to one player. But who have you gone for?
I was Tempted to give it to Nicholas Jackson, if I'm honest. 13 goals in his debut season at the time of recording. It's not too shabby. And I feel like that period where we didn't have him when he was at the Africa Cup of Nations, we struggled to score goals and Broja didn't really step up. Sterling, Palmer's the false nine, didn't work out at times. So I feel like he's almost had a quite underrated season, and the spotlight's all constantly been on him. But we have to remember this is his first season. We didn't sign him to be the main goal scorer, the main guy. He hasn't also had opportunities to play alongside Nkuku, who I think when we signed the two of them, it was kind of that combination maybe we wanted. But I actually then went for someone else who only returned back to the team in February and has been quite instrumental in the last few games. And that's Trevor Chalobah.
Yeah,
I think he's been our unsung hero. I feel like the last two performances against West Ham and particularly Tottenham, where we really had a weak back line, he really stepped up and got that opening goal. I feel as well the game he came back in, or he came on as a substitute at the Etihad against City and hadn't played any football in about 8 months or so, he really stepped up as well. So I feel like, almost having called him out again from what looked like he was destined to depart in January or even be sold last summer. I feel like it's huge credit to him and just his commitment to the club. And it also is a bit sad that despite all those performances and in the last 3 or 4 months, he's probably still going to depart in the summer. But yeah, I think he's been our unsung hero in the last couple performances we've had. I feel like he's been instrumental in those victories and clean sheets.
No, it's a good shout. And to be fair, he wasn't in my thought process when we did the unsung. Well, I was looking at unsung hero category. I did have Conor Gallagher as an honourable shout out, only because I feel very much like what you just said about we're potentially going to see Conor Gallagher leave in the summer and potentially to a rival. But I feel like he's one of those players that we automatically just expect him to play well now because of how well he's been playing. And I don't think we appreciate, we spoke about on here before about the number of kilometres he miles up, the mileage he's putting in these games and how well he's playing. I just think we kind of expect it because it's Conor Gallagher. We don't actually appreciate what he's doing. So that was my initial thought. But then I went for Malo Gusto, who I know has missed a lot of football this season through injury and, but I feel like one of the key areas, when Reece James is out for pretty much most of the season, one of the key areas that I was always worried about and have been for the past, especially with Azpilicueta leaving as well, is our right back and right wing and how we're going to function if Reece James gets injured. And credit to Malo Gusto, he came in defensively, he looks solid going forward. He looks quite solid. He knows how to whip a ball in. So I was really impressed with him this season. I just think we need to see, it'd be interesting when they're both fully fit, the competition between the two of them, because I feel there is a case to be had that he could actually keep Reece James out of the squad if he carries on playing the way he's playing. So I went for him. I think he's a really good player. A couple of assists this season, I think, against Brentford, Leicester, Palace, Villa in the cup as well, Preston in the cup, Palace again. So he's definitely someone I feel we can say is an unsung hero. Whether that top trumps Chalobah, probably not. I feel like Chalobah, like you said, frozen out, back in the squad, doesn't look out of place. So, I can see both arguments there.
Yeah. So you mentioned Reece James and the words fully fit, and I just feel like they just don't go.
It's never going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
I think the way I saw his unsung hero as someone maybe has been a bit underrated was I feel like Gusto and Gallagher. We've been singing their praise throughout the season, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, definitely two huge shouts, I feel. And like you said, we haven't really been missing Reece James as much as we did last season with Gusto's performances and form.
Yeah, definitely. Signing of the season, I think, is probably a very easy, quick win for both of us. But I'm sure I've gone for Cole Palmer. Yeah. I'm sure you've probably gone for the same.
Yeah.
I've
gone with Cole Palmer. I was going to say just shouts out to Malo Gusto for signing of the season as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's. Yeah, because we signed him the season before, but he stayed.
Yeah, we signed him in January last year. We loaned him back to Lyon, and I think he got injured and returned to Cobham for his treatment. But yeah, really good signing. Actually, true, how you think of it, we signed him last season, so can he class as signing of the season?
I would say so. I mean, theoretically, we didn't register him till this summer, or summer just gone, so why not?
True.
He's in for the shout.
Yeah, still got to be Palmer for me.
Oh yeah, 100%. We can agree on that one. Most improved player this season.
I'll let you go first for this one, actually.
Okay. I've gone for Conor Gallagher. Again, I think Conor Gallagher for me is a player. If you've ever watched his podcast, you'll know. Even I think last season before, I was always screaming that I needed more from him. I needed him to do something in that midfield. I needed him to change how he played. And I feel like, I don't know if it's Maurizio Pochettino coming in who's changed his game, or just maybe with age you get better at something if you apply yourself correctly. And I feel like Conor Gallagher now, not only just in terms of his footballing ability, but his leadership as well, he just looks, again, I've said it just before, the fact we potentially might lose him to a rival for relatively cheap money in terms of how we should really be selling Conor Gallagher for, I think I'm seeing like 50 or 80 million between that price range batted around for him. We would be stupid to let him go, because I think he's still a very good player. Whether we bring other midfielders in the summer, I still think he's someone we can utilise in that team next season. And he's getting goals now. You know, he's one of the things I think I wanted to add to him was the goals. You know, the bull in the china shop tag that I gave him is well and truly gone. He just looks a totally different player on the pitch. He looks like the one player we actually need in the team now. And like you said, sitting alongside Caicedo with Enzo not really in the picture due to injury. Cucurella against West Ham was dropping into that DM role a bit more, the defensive midfielder role as well. And it helped Conor Gallagher get a bit more forward as well when we had possession of the ball. So, yeah, for me, he's arguably, for me, the most improved player in the last 12 months.
Yeah, no, what a play he's had. And probably when we talk about player of the season, he could have been a contender for that as well, because he's been so instrumental. It just feels like such a shame that we need to kind of somehow raise money before the 30th of June. And he seems like one of the players we're going to have to sell alongside Ambrosia and Maatsen and maybe Chalobah, which is so frustrating, especially when you see the names of the clubs that he's being linked to being our kind of Premier League rivals.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really good shout. I've actually gone with a player that you just mentioned when talking about Gallagher there, particularly in the game against West Ham. I've gone with Marc Cucurella. And similar to Mudryk, I've been super critical of Cucurella since he signed for Chelsea. I feel like at times he's looked absolutely clueless running on the pitch, like a headless chicken at times. Especially that mistake against Villa, the own goal. We kind of said he got the hair kind of in his eyes and couldn't see where the ball was. That being said, when you compare his performances this season to last, I think he's massively improved.
Yeah. Similarly
to what we said about Gusto kind of coming in, replacing Reece James when he's been injured. I think Cucurella's done a really good job replacing Ben Chilwell at times. Especially the last two games, you look at his numbers against Tottenham and West Ham, massive performances in both those games. And I feel like he has improved. And I also remember a period in October when we were really kind of short in right backs. And I think Cucurella played as a right back at Craven Cottage and put in a really good performance as well. So yeah, I just think he hasn't been amazing, but I think he has improved a lot compared to last season. And probably had he not done that, I think there'd be talks about potentially selling him or loaning him this summer. But I feel like he's really redeemed himself and he will play a part going forward. We mentioned before we had Maatsen, Cucurella and Chilwell. I think we both agreed that we want to keep Maatsen and sell Cucurella. Whereas now it seems like it's going to be the other way around. We're going to keep Cucurella and sell Maatsen. I'm kind of okay with that, even though Maatsen's been sublime getting Dortmund into the Champions League final. But again, that 30th of June deadline that we have to sell players, I feel like Maatsen may be one of the victims of the flash sale. So yeah, for me, his most improved player is Cucurella.
It's a good shout. And I think he's, again, I don't know whether it's because a lot of pressure was on him, you know, especially start of this season. I think there was a lot of, you know, still the most expensive left back in the history of the Premier League, or I think even in the world, actually. Someone that has to perform, I think, for me, a bit more better next season. And it'd be interesting to see the last 3 games of the season. Obviously, you expect Ben Chilwell to remain out for the rest of the season. Whether we see a replica of what happened in the West Ham game with him dropping into that sort of inverted position against Nottingham Forest on Saturday, which we'll talk about in a bit. But, you know, very good shout. You know, Marc Cucurella for me He has to do more, but I've definitely seen improvement in him this season, 100%.
Perfect, yeah. And young player of the season next. I think we might be in agreement with this one.
Yeah.
I don't think we had many kind of academy graduates get their debuts or really perform. You can maybe say Cassidy, Chukwuemeka.
Yeah.
Cassidy's been out on loan for half the season. Hasn't really played for Chelsea much. Chukwuemeka's been injured for a majority of the season. So I've gone with Alfie Gilchrist as the young player of the season. Played some tough games. You know, he got the odd cameos when we were winning, I think, against Preston or those type of games. But then recently, particularly against Spurs, when we had such a weak backline, like I mentioned, and he really did put in a good performance.
Yeah.
Not the best games against the Emirates, but I think he's been really good, and he's kind of shown that he either deserves to stay in the squad and get a bit more game time next season, or he deserves a loan, perhaps to a Premier League or Championship style club. Let's not forget his emotional first goal at Stamford Bridge and what he said afterwards from being in the crowd celebrating with the fans, the scoring goal at Stamford Bridge. You could see how much it meant for him. So if we had a category actually for best celebration of Gilchrist,
it's got to be him.
So yeah, he was my young player of the season.
Yeah, no, I've gone for the same. I agree with you. I think, like you said, it was very hard to pick anyone else, but that doesn't discredit the effort and the performances that I think we've seen from him. He's and obviously Pochettino, the coaching staff must see something in him. He's now been included as part of the senior squad dressing room. He's got his own locker, which I know doesn't mean a lot for fans, but in terms of him, it shows that there's progression that they're seeing in him to be able to incorporate him and include him now or almost class him as part of the senior squad. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think again, one of the things we possibly need to maybe stop doing is loaning out our players if we see them potentially being part of the squad in the next 2 or 3 seasons. And I think if he's part of that, I think we keep him. He might not play every game, obviously. You know, we've got the centre-backs that we know we've got at the club, and the right-back situation with Gusto and Reece James if they're both fully fit. But it's a big if. You know, there's a big if that Reece James won't be fit this season coming as well. We know Gusto's had injury issues in the past as well. So there is going to be opportunity. And if we get into European football, Conference League, there's going to be games possibly that he might get to play there as well. So I'd keep him. I think he's a really good, solid defender. And like you said, not scared to shoot, not scared to get forward. And you can see what it meant. You know, the first goal at Stamford Bridge, you can see what it meant to him. So, yeah, I think if we're going to try and incorporate some of the younger players, which is what the model seems to be, is get the young players and develop them and then, you know, make sure they lead into the senior squad correctly. Let's keep him and see what he can do, in my opinion.
Yeah, completely. And I feel like we're almost set at right back now with Reece James, Gusto, and Gilchrist. You look at their profiles and their ages. I feel like they're 3 really good players, and again, I'm just to make sure that they all stay fit and they're available in the matchday squads.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Hopefully, we can keep him this season. I'm sick of loaning out quality players to then see them move on and get into Champions League finals. So let's keep them and see what can happen there. My next one I can kind of do as a double. I can do this as a duo, which
I think we're going to agree with this one. I think if you're going to do it as a duo, because I was about to say the same thing.
Well, I've gone for obviously we're talking about game of the season and moment of the season as well. So I've gone for the United game, the game which I thought Cole Palmer was amazing. But for me, the moment of the season was that final 4-3. You know, just that the whole game played out, but more so that final corner that we got. Cole Palmer, no one closing him down, just almost a bullet through the ball, straight at the back of the net. I can still see it now. What a goal. So for me,
you can hear it as well, can't you? The rattle of Matthew Harding.
Yeah, it's just, it was almost made to be that way, that game. It was just, we played so well. We didn't deserve, the scoreline didn't give a true reflection of the game for me. And I thought we were the better team throughout most of it. And then to see that goal finally go in, and you could see what it meant to Pochettino, the fans that were there as well. You could just see it almost changed the way the season was going to go for us. And I feel that was the turning point for what we'll speak about in a minute in terms of potentially getting into European football next season. I felt that was one of those turning points for me. Yeah,
no, I'd have to agree with the game of the season being a 4-3 win over Manchester United at Stamford Bridge. And the moment of the season is just a ball hitting the back of the net for the 4th goal, that Cole Palmer score, deflected off Scott McTominay. But yeah, I remember, I've been to a lot of games at Stamford Bridge, but I could say that the last maybe 2 years, I just haven't felt the same passion, energy or feeling leaving Stamford Bridge. whereas that particular game, I had goosebumps, I had a sore throat from screaming so much. I lost my voice the next day. It felt good to feel that way again because I hadn't felt it in a very, very long time. Probably not since the Borussia Dortmund game in the Champions League last year. So yeah, what a feeling. And I'm just really hoping that we can kind of go on to kind of win big games like that in kind of special moments. Some shout outs for maybe the 4-4 draw with Manchester City.
Yeah.
And perhaps just the 4-1 victory over Tottenham. Wasn't the best of games, but 4 goals away to Tottenham. It's always enjoyable. So yeah, those two would probably be my other shout outs.
Yeah. I also think the game, which I referenced before, the Leicester game, the 4-2, I think that was a really big game for us. And I also think the game which you mentioned around Enzo's free kick against Aston Villa was in the FA Cup as well, was it?
FA Cup replay, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think that was again another big game for us. But no, nothing will be that United Parma for me personally.
No. West Ham and Everton at home, enjoyable victories because of the score lines. Definitely.
Yeah, we forgot about the Everton one. That was a big one as well. But yeah, no, I think that's quite sensible choices. I think we've gone with there. I don't think we've gone for anything sort of crazy. Maybe my Dazazi shout was, but I think I've justified as to why. But no, I'm happy with mine. I'm hoping you're happy with your choices and what you've gone for. So let us know what you go for on YouTube. Leave your comments. Again, on Spotify, you can leave your comments on there as well. Let us know what you've gone for in those categories, and we'll try and or even on Twitter as well. If you're following us on Twitter, make sure you do that, and we'll maybe post what we've done, and then you can add yours underneath. Let us know your thoughts. I'm refraining from saying this, but Saturday 5:30, it is a big game. It's a massive game. It's a massive game for us. We are so close, but so far from European football at this point in the season. 3 games to go. Forest, Brighton, midweek game, I think 7:45 kickoff, and then final game against Bournemouth, end of the season. 3 crucial games, 9 points really is all but nothing. Let's start with obviously Forest, big game. Thoughts going into that 5:30 kickoff? Confident?
Yeah. I'll be confident if it was a home fixture because our home form has been really good this season. I think it's just the 3 defeats, and other than that, we've been brilliant, and just the 1 defeat since 2024 against Wolves at home. But away from home, we seem to struggle a bit. I just really hope we kind of learn from mistakes in the Villa game and we kind of switch on for both halves and in the full 90 minutes and not just one of the 2 halves. Forest as well, they've got a lot to play for still, and they've been in decent form lately, particularly one former Chelsea player who we saw to Forest last summer who's been performing really well. I think 8 goals for the season or 7 goals for the season, but that's Callum Hudson-Odoi. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a goal on Saturday. But no, it's a really big game. I think what's giving me hope is what we spoke about at the beginning of the episode. Our squad slowly returning from their lengthy injuries and a lot more depth on the bench. You mentioned Reece James could feature on the bench, and Cuckoo and Colwill. And Cuckoo got some minutes against West Ham, so I expect him to get even more minutes against Nottingham Forest. And then other players like Madueke really finding form. Jackson as well. He's found his shooting boots lately as well. So yeah, I am kind of confident after saying that, but I still think it's going to be a tough game. That being said.
Yeah, it's difficult because obviously I think when we go into this, Tottenham play Burnley, I think at 3:00. We'll be playing at 5:30. And, Burnley, if they win that game, adds a bit more pressure to, I think if they lose, I think they're theoretically relegated. But if they win that game, Burnley, it then adds a bit of pressure on Forest and obviously Luton as well. They'll have a game to play, I think, against West Ham. So again, if Luton win that game, there's a lot of pressure on Forest, making sure they get the 3 points at the City ground, which they'll know by the time kickoff comes that they have to go out and win that game. So, and like you said, Callum Hudson-Odoi's been playing really well. Chris Wood's been playing really well for them. Morgan Gibbs-White, Ola Aina as well, ex-Chelsea player, again, playing in that left wing back position, linking up with Callum Hudson-Odoi on the left side. It'll be a difficult game, I think, was it 1-1 last time we played? in the City ground.
Yeah, 1-1. Raheem Sterling and what's he called? Serge Aurier got the equaliser for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah. So we haven't won here since in the Premier League, obviously, since 1999, February the 20th. It was a 3-1 win against Forest. But I am confident. Because I feel like we've turned a corner very late into the season. Like you said, certain players are picking up a bit more form now. We just have to ensure that we don't make any early mistakes in this game. I think if we go 1-0, 2-0 possibly down, which we've seen before, it can sort of we just fall apart. We just don't even know how to bring the game back at 2-0 down. So my other worry is, and not a worry, but a question for you: when Nkunku got his minutes last week, do we start him in this game, knowing that we are now chasing for Europe? Maybe drop Mudryk. It's a shout.
Yeah, it's a shout. Yeah, I definitely feel like what you said at the end. Drop Mudryk, because I think that needs to happen.
Yeah,
but it's how you then kind of change the lineup. Do you bring Sterling back in? Do you shift Palmer to the wing and play as Nkunku as a number 10, perhaps? So I think there's different options. I think Madueke needs to retain his spot because he's been brilliant lately. But I think Mudryk does need to be dropped. I think it may be a bit too soon for Nkunku to start the game. But like I mentioned, I'd like to see him at least get like 30, 35 minutes of football.
Yeah, he's been out for a long time, hasn't he? And I just think it's difficult because we don't know what Mudryk's going to turn up. Mudryk, and I've said it a couple of times now on here, I think he does need consistency. But even when we are giving him like 2 or 3 games back to back, which hasn't happened often.
He's had the consistency lately. He has had the consistency lately of the injuries, and he's been the one player in all these games that we play that just hasn't performed.
And he gets sucked off eventually. So there's that excuse almost is redundant now. So he's had that opportunity. He hasn't really done it. I would probably shift. I'd probably bring in Sterling from Mudryk. We'll talk about the full lineup in a minute, but I think we have to drop Mudryk in order to get this game. You've got to think about Morgan Gibbs-White down at the right side for Forest as well. And Willoughby will probably be in that defensive line, Murillo as well. So I'm thinking quite a physical game. You need someone who's going to be able to deal with that defensively from a Nottingham Forest perspective. And I think Sterling has that experience to do that. He knows how to work a defensive line, find pockets of space, take on a player. I don't think Mudryk can do that. And I think he'll struggle. For someone who spends a lot of time in the gym, he does get muscled off the ball quite a lot. So, I'm not sure if I'd stick with Mudryk. I think I'd drop him. But if we win off all 3 games now, or maybe 2 out of 3, and we end up in the 6th place, we get Conference League football, that's still got to be an objective ticked off for Mauricio Pochettino. Yeah,
and it seems like Pochettino and the board aren't going to be satisfied with Conference League. It looks like it's Europa League now they want, which is that 6th spot, which is possible. I think we still need Newcastle to drop points. You look at some of the fixtures might be quite favourable to us. I think Newcastle still need to play United.
Yeah.
So one of those 2 teams will drop points. That being said, I hope United beat Arsenal just for what's happening at the top of the table.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a possibility, and I feel like if we kind of keep this momentum that we've got now, this cohesion and these fitness levels, hopefully as well, into the summer, into next season, and get those players back, the Lavias, the Fofanas, Colwell as well as Mr. Chunk now. Yeah. I think Pochettino's got to stay. And I've never actually said the words Poch-out because I've always wanted him to stay. I've always wanted him to do well. But yeah, I feel like he could do well with this young team in a conference or Europa League tournament, perhaps. So, he's kind of definitely ticked something if he does that, especially considering where we were maybe around February time, lurking around 11th and 10th.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like we've turned the table since then.
Yeah, maybe for unsung hero, maybe we should have gone for Mauricio Pochettino in what he's done under the situation with the injuries, 14 injuries, I think, against Tottenham, 14 players out. So maybe he was the unsung hero after all. But let's go for our predictions, our predicted lineup first of all. Who are we going with?
I'm going to go with Petrovic, Gusto, Silva, Chalobah, Cucurella, Caicedo, Enzo, Palmer, Sterling, Madueke, and Jackson.
Same. Yeah, literally the same lineup. I was questioning whether we put Badiashile back in centre back and put Chalobah. Is Gusto fully fit, ready to compete? But I think if Gusto is, put him in. Reece James will be on the bench. I think he won't get any minutes against Forest. I'll be honest, I don't want to see Reece James back this season. I'd rather he doesn't play a minute of football. If he's on the bench and he's training, great. But if we don't need to use him, let's not use him. So Gusto in. As we said, Mudryk dropped for Sterling. And Jackson up top, like you said, scoring goals, whether they're fluky goals, or they're meaningful goals, or they're the most hardest goals he's scoring goals and he's getting assists. So let's keep him where he is. Let's go for our predictions in terms of scoreline, which is always the one that was quite difficult. I don't think we've been on the money for a while, but let's go for the score predictions.
Yeah, I think we'll concede. We'll be able to keep 3 clean sheets in a row, clearly because we're playing away from home and tough ground to go to as well. So I'm going to say 2-1 Chelsea. I'm relatively confident, but I'm also a bit nervy that it could only just be the 1 goal in it between the two teams.
I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea. I think I don't know why, but I feel like we've hit a really good patch of form, and I feel defensively we look solid, which I don't want to jinx it, but we look really solid defensively recently. And even going forward, we look a threat again. So Conor Gallagher, Caicedo midfield have been amazing. Cucurella dropping into that new sort of inverted role seems to be working. So let's see more of that. And 2-0. I'm going to go 2-0.
Yeah. I don't know if I've told the listeners, but I wasn't able to watch the Tottenham and the West Ham games at Stamford Bridge, and actually wasn't even able to watch them on TV because I was travelling. So maybe I'm the reason that Chelsea haven't been performing this season.
Jinx.
So Saturday, maybe I'll just have the TV off and not watch it. But I'll definitely be supporting and watching the Blues 5:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we all will. But if you're new to the channel, as I said at the start of this, please make sure you subscribe before you leave the video. Leave your comments, leave your thoughts in the comment section as well. And don't forget to hit that Linktree link in the description. That will take you to all the social accounts and previous episodes of the podcast as well. Theo, as always, let's hope for 3 points. Thanks for another good session on the podcast. It's always enjoyable, especially Friday, sun shining. It's almost beer time somewhere, somehow. Everyone
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah,
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
I was going to say that, and I thought I didn't want to say that, but it is 5 o'clock somewhere. That's why I changed it at the end very quickly. Enjoy your weekends. Hope 3 points we get that, and then we'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you very much for watching.